To introduce our first speaker for today, I'm very pleased to introduce Mr. Shireesh Joshi, Chief Business Officer for Open Digital Network for Commerce. All of you know about ONDC, so let me introduce Shireesh. He is responsible for expanding the network in terms of participants and domains. He's previously held senior roles with Procter & Gamble, PepsiCo, Airtel and Godrej, where he has managed multiple brands, geographies and market positions, and worked on businesses across India, China, and South Asia. He's worked with various cultures and languages. He has over 30 years of experience in the industry, delivering very successful results with organizations and teams of varying capabilities and scale. As an industry and function leader, he often speaks at industry conferences. He serves on various marketing award juries as well. He's an alumnus of IIT Kanpur and IIM Bangalore. So please put your hands together to welcome on stage Mr. Shireesh Joshi, Chief Business Officer of ONDC.
Thank you and good morning. When we speak about embracing anything, embracing the new usually requires us to unlearn something. And e-commerce is one of those things where we've experienced e-commerce for many years. E-commerce is not new. And because we've experienced e-commerce in a certain way, that has become our mental model of how e-commerce must work. There are certain things each time we have a conversation around e-commerce, there are certain assumptions people come with, how e-commerce must function, how e-commerce must behave. And there is one of the expectations is, for example, that there is one entity that will do everything. So e-commerce, it's almost comes with an automatic expectation that it has to be one organization that will have all the services, all the capabilities inside that one organization, and only then can e-commerce function effectively. Now, is this always true? The cars we ride, the makers of those cars didn't make the tires. Tires came from some other company. That's been unbundled. The entire BPO industry is about unbundling business processes. So many business processes now get outsourced. So in every other walk of life, we are used to it. Take just simple act of flying. If you book your travel through a travel agent, then there are at least 8 organizations that you will go through in a single flight journey. The agency through which you booked, the taxi that took you to the airport, the security that checked you in at the entrance, the organization that's running the airport, the second security that checks your bag and your personal belongings, the flight, the airline that flies you, the management of the airport where you've arrived, and the taxi that takes you back. And if you had food on the flight, then there are 9 organizations you went through in a single journey on a single ticket. And we're used to it. So all of life works in this unbundled fashion. Only e-commerce, we've come to believe everything must be done. So that's one of the things to unlearn. When we think about B2B logistics, right, automatically certain things come to mind. Containers, shipping, freight, trucks. But if you really peer outside, and some of you might have seen this site on the way, there are 3 B2B transportation that you can see in that picture. That's also B2B. And the Indian economy over the years has found its own ground in terms of solving for things in a way that Indian economy can afford. So if we have to find a solution that is profitable and that fits the requirements, we have to open our eyes beyond what we think is. Look at B2C logistics. So when we think about hyper logistics, this is the picture that comes to mind. A bike-ridden driver who has picked up an item from either a restaurant or a grocery store and then delivered home. And we think that shaving a few rupees off the delivery cost is now getting us to the next level and the next level. So 60 rupees coming down to 65 to 55 to 50, wow. But in our own country, we've had a very efficient food delivery system that costs 20 rupees per delivery. And this is not food that you can order from any restaurant that could just happen to be close by. It's coming from somebody's home, so it's a very fixed location, going all the way across a city like Mumbai, which is not easy to navigate. And at 20 rupees average food delivery cost, hot food delivered to an individual. That's a solution that exists in this country. And why just talk about food? Think about a 4 rupee item. In so many homes across the country, a 4 rupee item gets efficiently, profitably delivered to the homes. I get a different newspaper, my neighbor gets a different one, the person who lives downstairs gets a different one, so it's a different assortment. And the item itself costs 4 rupees, forget about the delivery cost. So we are in an economy where we have many different kinds of components in our economy, and they function and they work. And so if we have to create something that solves for the scale, it cannot be a monolithic, it cannot be one where only one entity is solving for everything. So what's a Swift knife? It's convenient, but it has limited options. After all, how many screwdrivers can you fit in there? Or how many scissors can you fit in there? Or how many magnifying glass can you fit in a single Swiss knife? So when everything is in one, it is pretty convenient, but it doesn't solve everything. There'll be many kinds of screwdrivers that you need that might not be in this one. There'll be many kinds of scissors or cutting devices you will need that are not in this one. So if you really have to solve for everything, you cannot be dependent on one entity doing everything. Right? So one does everything, has to change each part done by whoever is best at it, and unlimited options. And most importantly, all efforts so far from a business perspective there have been large digital capable organizations that have attempted to do e-commerce and who are not profitable. And all the effort is to take what is digital and make it profitable. But here is a flip. There are so many things that are profitable. And how about instead of making the digital profitable, we digitize the profitable? And so what is the mechanism by which we can take what already exists, which fits with the economy, that is profitable? You never see newspaper delivery people lined up outside PE firms saying we need an infusion of funds, right? You don't see that. That's because it's a functional, profitable system. So what you need to bring it together is a protocol. And a protocol is a very basic thing that simply connects the parts together. We know this from Lego. All Lego defined was that circular plug, where it must be present on two pieces, one as a protrusion, one as a receptacle, and any two pieces can come together. So when you think protocol, then you create basic applications of it. From there, you move on to MVPs. And once you get to MVPs, you can even get to more sophisticated solutions. And you don't stop there. And these are not created by Lego themselves anymore now, right? So the person who created the protocol is no longer thinking of what the solutions that are getting created. And you can go beyond this. If you could just play the video.
So this is one of my more involved models. This is my Lego refrigerator that actually opens up. There's a couple of secrets on the inside. Of course, I like putting all of my food minifigures in here. I've got the produce drawer. And actually, one of my favorite parts of this is making tiny condiments, like little sports drink, some ranch dressing, little micro scale builds. Of course, it's got a freezer. I've got just some mint chocolate chip ice cream. That's all I have in my freezer at home, so that's all we need. And my favorite feature of it is we close the door, press the button, and then the ice falls out. It goes all over the floor. I have to clean it up, but you know. This actually took about 16 hours to build and design. Maybe half of that was trying to figure out the ice machine. I really spent a long time perfecting like a functional part of the build like that. And this is about as big as I go on models. And this is definitely one of my most popular, one of my personal favorites. And yeah, I need to add some more food to the inside. Not a lot to eat right now.
All right. So beyond the imagination of even the makers, so when you create protocol, then you're not creating fixed products, you're creating a capability, you're creating an opportunity for innovation, and you're harnessing the capability, the requirements, the needs, and the ingenuity of an entire population to be able to create solutions. And that's how you get to from fixed solutions that can do certain things very well to a broader set of solutions that have a capability of creating the inclusion that the goal of this project is.
So this is one of my...
Now, the topic was democratization. And when I see newspaper reports and articles, or even when I interview people working for us and ask them, do you know about ONDC, this phrase comes out, democratization of commerce. But when you ask somebody what does democratization mean, they struggle to explain it. And there is no better metaphor for democratization than Indian highways. On the same highway, you can see trucks, you can see buses, you can see luxury cars, you can see private cars, taxis, auto rickshaws, tempos, hand carts, bicycles, scooters, even people on feet carrying stuff. That's democratic because there is no barrier to any one of these transportation systems to use that infrastructure. So an infrastructure is democratic where everybody can use it equally. Whoever wants something transported has a choice. So when you're standing by the side of the road, you could choose to take a bike ride, you could choose take an auto rickshaw, a taxi, and variety of taxis, all coming on the same road. None of them has a barrier to reach you. Now it's just a matter of who the seller is and what they have to offer, and who you as the rider are and what you need to choose. So that's a metaphor for democratization. And so e-commerce also should be such where everybody has an equal opportunity to easily participate. There are no barriers to becoming part of it. And it shouldn't look like the way e-commerce looks today, which is looking like an exclusive club. All of us do e-commerce a lot, and we might think that it is fairly widespread. But from an India perspective, e-commerce is very niche because less than 1% of sellers are digital. Penetration in commerce is 5 to 6%, or about 6% overall. If you look at B2B, it's even smaller, only about 1%. And all of that is largely urban-centric. So contribution from rural, smaller towns and sellers beyond a few large entities are almost non-existent. So e-commerce today is very niche, it's very club-like, and how do we take it now to that democratic ideal where everyone can equally participate? So the whole idea behind ONDC is really two principles of unbundling the e-commerce and making it interoperable. Now you look at any e-commerce structure, you will see activities that you can broadly group into three parts. One part are buyer-facing, where a buyer searches for a product, adds to cart, does payment. Second set of activities are what a seller does, which is uploading their inventory, uploading their catalog, managing orders, modifications to orders like a cancellation or a refund. And if it's a physical good, then a delivery that is being effected from the buyer's location to the seller's location. These are the activities that make up a typical e-commerce solution. And if you go to another e-commerce solution, you will see the same activities, right, or a similar fashion. They're all connected through a protocol in each one of them, but each platform has its own protocol. It's proprietary to them. So these platforms don't talk to each other. A buyer on one platform cannot buy from a seller on another platform. These are all mutually exclusive universes. Now what happens when you bring unbundled interoperability is you still get the same solution, but the difference is now you have different activities being done by different organizations. They are still connected by a protocol, but the protocol is not private and proprietary, it's public. So you get to the same solution, the buyer experiences the same journey. Now what happens as a result of this? You get a combination of organizations all connected onto a single network with that protocol. So now, any buyer on any buyer application can buy from any seller on any seller application, and either of them can order logistics from any logistics provider or any logistics application. This is not an academic rearrangement of parts, because when you break it up like this, now you allow many more people to participate. Because when you think about food ordering, how many platforms can you think of? When you think of taxi hailing, how many platforms can you think of? But if you think of organizations, for example, that have a user base of some kind, there are many. Banks have user bases. 2 banks are live as buyer applications on ONDC, Kotak and IDFC. Payment companies have user bases. 2 payment companies are live on ONDC, Paytm and PhonePe. Telecom companies have user bases. One telecom company has begun their integration work with us. Media companies have user bases or audiences. So tomorrow at timesofindia.com or Times Now collectively with all their collective readership and viewership can become a buying application. You do not need to be an e-commerce entity to become a participant. So you have one kind of entities contributing buyers. You have another set of organizations contributing sellers, companies that do accounting, companies that do point-of-sale software. So point-of-sale software knows the inventory of the store, knows the catalog of the store. When that software becomes ONDC compatible, that store becomes visible to the network. And so you can have a buyer on a telecom application buying from a seller who's on a point-of-sale software application seamlessly, as if they were inside a single e-commerce platform. And yes, they can order delivery from any compatible delivery provider. So what you get is a network which has all the components you expect from e-commerce, except that there's no one entity that has contributed. Different people are contributing buyers, different people contributing sellers, and different entities contributing delivery systems, and not one kind of delivery system. Over a period of time, you will have all those kinds of delivery systems that I showed you in pictures a little earlier. So now there is an option for the buyer and seller to decide for that particular transaction on that particular day, what is the combination that works out best. No existing e-commerce structure today gives you that degree of flexibility or freedom to choose in that way. Now, when we look at reality, that was the conceptual structure, this is where we are today. And the network keeps growing. So the network went live last year in April. That's when the first transaction took place. But now we have 11 buyer applications. Collectively, we estimate well over 100 million. In fact, there actually might be more than 200 million buyers collectively between them. 7 logistics organizations contributing both hyperlocal and intercity logistics. And 32 seller applications collectively with nearly 50,000 sellers and 66 lakh SKUs. And these are not just retailers. Some of them are companies. Unilever is live. Procter & Gamble is live. ITC Store is live. Boat is live. We had relatively smaller brands like Wow Skin Science going live. Yesterday or day before, Ferns and Petals went live. Right? So now in a single network, you have all kinds of goods and services coming both from retail, manufacture, and need organizations themselves. And so this collective network now makes it possible for any buyer or seller to interact. So you can have a buyer on Kotak Bank application ordering, let's say, a cream from Wow Science and getting LoadShare to deliver it. And that combination can come into play, or a different one. So this is, in milliseconds, a mix and match as per the buyers and sellers' requirements. And that's only the beginning. This is some just inkling of the pipeline that is on its way. We have now more than 11,000 organizations that have expressed interest in joining ONDC, 24 domains that don't exist on the network today. And so we have people who are wanting to build handyman services, teaching services, alloys and steels, auto parts, inputs to agriculture. All of that is now coming to the network. Here is an example of what's already live. So today we have weavers in Kanchipuram who are live. You want to order a Kanchipuram silk sari, you can order it directly from the weaver. What happens in all these artisan systems is typically middlemen come in the way, and then you get very typical designs that are available across the country because everybody wants to focus on what sells well. When you go to e-commerce platform, you get pushed the most popular, the most common. Most of people who bought this also bought that. So all of e-commerce tends to push you towards the popular and the more common. But if you want your own design, you can go to the weaver and directly select from that weaver. You have artisanal restaurants that are available, and not in every city. But if you are fond of food that is a little bit offbeat, now you have an option to find it. You're not being pushed the standard burger, pizza, sandwiches, biryanis that everybody else is buying. You can get to choose your own. We have artisanal beauty care brands that are live. Right? So you'll get your standard mass consumer products, and you'll also get interesting niche products made by people who've thought differently and created their own brands. And in a country like ours, which is rich with its own tradition, you can get a lot of traditional products also. These are all live. These are all real sellers that are available today. You can, sitting in this hotel, you can place an order. Now, one part of it is, of course, protocol. One part of it is, of course, ensuring that we reach the idea to such sellers and bring them on board. It's also about making resources available on the network that allows all of them to succeed. Reputation services. So this is not just about rating, because rating is simply a judgment by a customer, and often when they're upset. But reputation is a lot more than that. So what about a seller who's shipping their items of time, rarely has a complaint, whatever few complaints happen, they're able to resolve it. Even if they don't have a good rating, they can still have a good reputation. So building a mechanism whereby many factors are available, and over a period of time, we expect this to evolve much like credit rating of companies has evolved. Right? So there are certain standard measures, like a P&L balance sheet of an organization has certain standard measures. But an investment organization can look at that balance sheet, can look at their own information about that company, and provide a judgment that this is a stock that you should hold, or this is a stock you must sell, or this is a stock you must buy, provided it's within a certain range. The exact same information can have different interpretations. So providing some basic performance and rating scores on which then judgments can be built, creating that infrastructure, and that allows sellers to sell. A lot of sellers actually have very good reputation in their neighborhood, but they do not think they can compete on current marketplaces versus large organizations that already have millions of transactions, or at least thousands of transactions. But when you join an open network, your existing customers can buy from you, and you can start seeding a good reputation that will enable more customers to find. So reputation is going to be key for that democratization. The other is reconciliation services. When somebody comes to a counter in a store, it's actually very straightforward. Let's say it's a 10 rupee bottle of water that a customer is buying. The shopkeeper will put that 10 rupee bottle on the counter. The customer gives 10 rupees, transaction done, 10 equals 10, everything is done. E-commerce, unfortunately, is not as simple. There is TDS, there is TCS, there is commission. And so a 10 rupee bottle, he will net out maybe 7 rupees 60 paisa. Even that 7 rupees 60 paisa, you might get 3 rupees when the item gets confirmed, another 3 rupees when the item gets shipped, and maybe the balance 160 when it reaches a customer. How is a retailer going to keep track of all that? Well, we don't expect them to. And so if you have reconciliation services, then sellers can very effectively keep track of what they are due, whether they got it or when they're going to get it. And finally, badging. In a lot of these cases, people don't know them. Right? So let's say that lady who's making the Arcanut leaves plates, you don't know her, so you do not know whether they're good or bad. But if that came with a badge saying this is a Tata Trust supported enterprise, or this is a SIDBI supported enterprise, that badge automatically builds confidence. And so creating resources around reputation, reconciliation, and badging will help many of these small sellers also become part of the network and make democratization real. Because we do not want not just the ability to sell, but also operational capability to be a barrier to any of these small sellers. Bangalore is where we have a pretty strong presence in mobility. So we have mobility presence now in 3 cities. We have taxi services in Kochi, we have auto rickshaw services in Bangalore, and now literally 2 weeks ago, we started some taxi services pilots in Kolkata. Here's an auto rickshaw driver who's told us that he's now earning thrice as much as he was on earlier application, and he's said, this is it. I will not go back to that earlier life ever again. The Kanjivaram silk orderers, they've now crossed lakhs in orders. We have ladies of Kudumbushri collective in Kerala who've also placed more than 500 orders in just 3 months. And I want to talk to you about 2 journeys as you look at all these examples and the evolution, because we often get asked, okay, what's your priority or what's going to be the glide path? Honestly, I do not know what that glide path will be. And the first journey I want to share is that of how internet itself grew. Now, all of you in this room will probably know it, but it bears recapping. It started off with the creation of the TCP/IP protocol right earlier. But ordinary people could start doing it only when the first browsers and search engines came late 80s, early 90s. Right. With time, then the initial services came, the first free email. That became the service that brought some people on board. Then came broadband. With broadband came pictures and videos, so that brought more people on board. You had queue busting services, banking, ticketing, that brought more people on board. Then came social media, that brought more people on board. And this wasn't just content and technology. Phone maker said, why should internet be only on laptops? It should come on phone devices. So mobile brought more internet users. Then telecom companies stepped up and said, hey, why should the data rates be so high? Let's drop the rate, get more people in. That got more people in. So who grew the internet? Was it technology? Was it content? Was it devices? Was it operators? Actually, it was all of them at different points in time. And each person has a different reason why they came on. I joined internet in the mid-90s with a Hotmail account. That was my first foray. Somebody else came on differently. So ONDC will not grow in any linear organic fashion, and certainly not the result of our efforts or your efforts or any one party's efforts. It will be collective efforts and imagination, and different use cases will come at different times. The second journey I want to talk about is what happened with the mobile camera. And I know each time I give this example, a lot of people smile that it dates them. So when the camera first came, it was a basic 640, 480 pixel camera at the back. It could only take daylight pictures. And if you sent a picture to somebody, they had to have an MMS service to be able to see it. You couldn't see it otherwise. That's how it began. It was actually worse than standard digital cameras at that time, and you would wonder why anybody would take pictures when easy digital cameras were available. Now look at where that journey has gone. As people went from phone to the ear to phones that they were looking at, cameras came in the front. It went from pixels to megapixels, from having no internet to 2G, 3G, 4G, and today 5G, and now you can do video conferencing. When the first camera came, nobody could envisage video conferencing on the phone. Video conferencing was this center halfway across town that you went in when technician came and got that started, and only then you could speak to the other party. And now you can do 60 people video conferencing off your phone. So also, ONDC is not going to be a single wave. It will not be, okay, e-commerce as we know it, it was earlier bundled and closed. Now we just simply brought it into an open structure. That's only the first wave. That's the 640 by 480 pixel camera that can only send through MMS. Where it will get to is a video conferencing solution, front and back cameras with megapixels. What that is will not be necessarily our effort, will not be your effort, will be somebody in this whole ecosystem will think about that idea and they will build on it, and then somebody else will build on it, and then somebody else will build on it. Why can we have cloud services today? Because internet speeds have become that fast. You couldn't think of cloud services in the 90s. You barely had basic internet. If you went to a teenager in 1993, 30 years ago, and told them, tomorrow you will have a job making videos of yourself, putting them, and you'll become famous on your own, nobody would have believed, because the only phone they knew was a push-button phone. It didn't even have a screen. And so where things get to, we cannot imagine today. So this is a journey that's only beginning. Do not judge the ability of a camera on a phone by its 480, 640 pixel presence today. So if ONDC looks small, if ONDC looks limited, it's because we've only just begun. We will get to our equivalent of the video conferencing in a few years. What can businesses do? I want to end with a few thoughts, and these are all real thoughts, so these are not made up. These are all conversations we've had with real people. We think of ordering to a fixed location, right? So if you order, you're ordering to your home, maybe you're ordering to your offices. If you're gifting somebody, maybe you're ordering it to their address. But we've had people think about delivering to a moving location. Let's say from here, I have to head back, or Meenakshi is going to head back to Bombay, she has to head to the airport. She finds a charger missing. How is she going to now solve it? She can't order here because she's going to leave this place. She can't order it to the airport because she can't perfectly time it, and when she reaches, she has to get inside, security and all that. She can't wait there. But what if she could give her journey from here to the airport as the input? Not a location, but a moving target. Many solutions could then emerge. She could find shops that are just 5 minutes deviation from her path and choose. She might discover a shop at the airport. She might discover a store that is enterprising enough to send a rider that will match her journey and deliver it to some traffic signal. So people are looking at opportunities to deliver to moving targets, not to fixed targets. We had a person who's into selling furniture who came to us and said, this was very early days, more than a year and a half back. And he said, do you have logistics services on the network? We said, we have a few, but what do you have in mind? And he said, I am based in Goa, and I'm only able to sell my furniture online across Goa. I need to be able to sell across the country. And I was puzzled. I said, well, you can ship anywhere in the country. What's holding you back? And he said, shipment is not holding me back. I can ship anywhere. What I don't have is once it gets shipped, somebody to unpack it correctly at the other end. And many times, customers are seeing it physically for the first time because they've ordered online. So if, let's say, they've ordered natural grain furniture and the grain looks a little bit different or too strong for their liking and they want to send it back, somebody has to pack it correctly and send it back. So my problem is not shipment. My problem is unpacking and repacking services at the end. And what is being faced by furniture will also be faced by appliance people and other people. So if somebody creates now packing and packing services, there is an unbundled component that will enable many businesses that will be possible. Somebody is thinking about that today. In one of our conferences, we had a company involved in medicines come to us and say, what are you guys doing about pharma? Is pharmaceuticals also live? We said, well, RX will take some time coming, but OTC is live. So what do you guys do? So, well, we have 30,000 stores. We are a Mediclaim company with 30,000 stores on our panel. Can they join the network? I said, that's straightforward. Right? Getting their FMCG products and getting their OTC products completely available, you can get started. And they said, what about Mediclaim? So I said, well, what about Mediclaim? They said that we provide Mediclaim products to customers who can buy that. There's a fixed amount, and they can buy that at a discount. And then over a period of a year, when they buy medicines, they can submit the bills and they can claim it. And as conversation led, they said, hey, you can become a buyer application. So if you become a buyer application, now consumers are buying through you. They don't need to submit bills. You can create a credit account at the beginning of the claim value at the end of the year. And through the year, they can keep buying their medicines. You have full information. No claims to be submitted, no claims to be processed. And voila, you have a new service created, and you're competitive versus people who are not providing both the combination of stores and the insurance or the claim. We also have solutions that are looking for a multi-point pickup. This is a conference, so it's possible that you might have required a multi-point pickup for everybody coming here. Event organizers face this very frequently. Now, it's very easy for multi-point pickup to be done when it is static. Schools do it all the time, right? So you have a bus routes in the city, students getting picked up. There are standard published routes. You simply say, where do you live? And they'll say, okay, therefore for you it will be bus number 820, etc. That's very static. But things can be dynamic. A hotel could cancel, you change location. Now, how do you reorganize that? Or what if you have to combine differently? So people are looking now at solutions where riders simply state their location, destination is already given, and automatically a solution gets created. Okay, so we need 3 taxis here, we need a minibus there, 2 Innovas over there, automatically gets created. And if, let's say, there is a roadblock somewhere, some construction, ping, and again it gets reorganized and everybody does it. And so people are looking at multi-point pickup locations also available. Now, for any one of them, what do they have to do? They only have to build that logic, that algorithm, and that software. Because the vehicles are already available on the network, the riders are already available on the network. You do not have to spend acquisition efforts to get them. All you need to do is build the technology to bridge that. That is how people are thinking about what's possible on the network and to be able to take the benefit of resources on the open network and build new services. So all it means for any business now, focus on what your strength is, simply plug into the network. You will have complementary services that are being provided by others. If they're not present today, create the conversation, and in fact, we are looking to create the mechanism where even if it is not present today, you declare your need, somebody who has that complementary services will bring in. Gone are the days of one-to-one integration. Right? Today, e-commerce is all about everybody has to integrate with everyone. So if you have 100 organizations wanting to integrate with 100 organizations, you have 10,000 integrations. But on an open network, you only have 200 integrations. And that's how you reduce systemic ecosystem costs. You eliminate or reduce the cost of acquisition. That takes costs away. You take costs of building components away. And so you actually make e-commerce not only democratic, you also make it a lot more affordable. And so if you think about some of the sellers I displayed, a lot of people ask us that, are sellers digital savvy enough? But how much digital savvy does a seller need to be? They only need to know 3 things. Can I see where an order has come so I can click accept? Okay, somebody wants 3 of my dancing dolls. Do I have? Yeah, I have 3 dolls. Okay, I accept. How do I pack it? in how much time because somebody's going to come and take that away as a package, and how will I know I got the money? That's it. That's all somebody needs to know to become a seller on a democratic network. And so I look forward to engaging with you during the breaks, and anybody has interest in taking this further, write to us at team@ondc.org. We'd love to have a conversation with you and make you part of the network. Thank you.